The massive alien ship hung in space above Earth like a dark storm cloud. Ambassador Sarah stood at the window of the space station, watching the vessel that dwarfed their largest carriers. She had seen pictures of alien ships before, but seeing one in person made her stomach tight with worry. "They're here for the meeting," said General, joining her at the window. His face looked grim. "Intelligence says that ship could destroy our entire defense fleet without breaking a sweat." Sarah nodded but kept her expression calm. As Earth's lead ambassador, she had to show strength even when she felt afraid. The aliens had requested this meeting 3 days ago. Their message was short and cold. They wanted to discuss Earth's future in what they called the Galactic Council. The meeting room was built for humans, so the alien delegation had to use special equipment to fit inside. Ambassador of the Empire was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like metal. His eyes were black and showed no emotion. Behind him stood 2 other aliens from different species, both looking just as unfriendly. "Humans of Earth," began, his voice coming through a translator that made it sound flat and mechanical. "The Galactic Council has decided to offer your species a place in our civilization." Sarah leaned forward slightly. "We're honored by your offer, Ambassador. Please, tell us more about what this would involve." The alien's mouth moved in what might have been a smile, but it looked more like a threat. "Your species has recently achieved faster-than-light travel. This is impressive for such a young race. However, space travel brings responsibilities. The Council maintains order among the stars." He pressed a button on a device, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed a map of local space with various star systems marked in different colors. "These systems belong to Council member species," explained, pointing to the blue markers. "These belong to species under Council protection," he indicated the green ones. "And these," he gestured to red markers, "belong to species that chose to resist Council authority." Sarah noticed that all the red markers were crossed out with black lines. "What happened to the species marked in red?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "They learned the importance of Council authority," said one of the other aliens, speaking for the first time. This one looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. "Some learned quickly, others required more education." Pulled up another display showing Earth's solar system. "Humans have established colonies on 12 worlds and built mining stations around 6 others. You have a fleet of approximately 200 ships. Your technology is approximately 300 years behind Council standard." The way he said it made it clear this wasn't meant as a compliment. "The Council's offer is generous," continued. "Earth will become a protected world under Council authority. You will surrender all military vessels to Council forces for proper disposal. Your colonies will be relocated to designated areas where they can be properly supervised. In return, the Council will provide Earth with advanced technology and protection from hostile forces." General shifted in his seat. "What if we prefer to remain independent?" All 3 aliens looked at him like he had said something stupid. His translator made a sound that might have been laughter. "General, your species has been in space for less than 50 years. The youngest member of the Council has been traveling between stars for over 2,000 years. You have barely left your home system, while Council fleets patrol 1,000 worlds. Independence is not realistic for a species at your level of development." Sarah kept her voice steady. "We appreciate the Council's generous offer. However, I need to discuss this with Earth's governments before we can give you an answer." "Of course," said. "The Council is not unreasonable. You have 30 standard galactic days to consider our offer. That is approximately 42 of your Earth days." "And if we decide to decline?" Sarah asked. The alien's black eyes seemed to grow even darker. "Ambassador, in 3,000 years of Council history, only 12 species have initially declined our offer of protection. All of them eventually accepted our guidance. The Council has found that some species learn better through direct experience. The threat was clear, even though words sounded polite. The Council fleet assigned to this sector includes 47 ships of the line, added the insect-like alien. They are currently conducting training exercises near your outer colonies, purely coincidental, of course. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. 47 ships. Earth's entire defense fleet had only 38 combat vessels, and most of those were smaller patrol ships. "We understand," she said carefully. "Earth will give the Council's offer full consideration." Stood up and the other aliens followed. "Excellent. The Council looks forward to welcoming humanity into our civilization. I trust you will make the wise choice." After the aliens left, Sarah and General sat in silence for several minutes. 47 ships, finally said. "Our best estimates say just 5 of their vessels could destroy our entire fleet." "I know," Sarah replied, "but we can't just surrender without at least trying to find another option." "What other option? They've made it clear what happens to species that resist." Sarah looked out the window again. The alien ship was still there, a constant reminder of the choice Earth faced: submit or be destroyed. It was the same choice that hundreds of other species had faced throughout the galaxy. "Maybe," she said slowly, "but those other species weren't human." Looked at her with surprise. "You think that makes a difference?" "Sarah, their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their ships are bigger, faster, and more powerful. What could we possibly do that those other species couldn't?" Sarah didn't answer immediately. She was thinking about human history, about all the times when a smaller, weaker force had defeated a larger, stronger enemy through determination, cleverness, and sheer stubbornness. The aliens clearly thought humans were just another primitive species to be easily dominated. Maybe they were wrong. "I don't know yet," she finally said, "but I think we need to find out what makes us different before we give up." She pressed a button on the communication panel. "Get me the president. Tell him we need an emergency meeting of the Defense Council, all department heads, all fleet commanders, and all colony governors." As left to carry out her orders, Sarah remained at the window, staring at the alien ship. In 42 days, Earth would have to give the Council an answer. She intended to make sure it was the right one, even if the aliens didn't like what they heard. The deadline came and went without Earth's surrender. Ambassador Sarah delivered humanity's response to the Galactic Council through the same communication channel the aliens had used for their ultimatum. "Humanity appreciates the Council's offer," she said, standing in the broadcast studio on Earth. "However, we must respectfully decline. We prefer to chart our own course among the stars." The response from the Council came within hours. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching Earth's blue sphere through the main viewer. Around him, 46 other Council warships moved into position. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built, armed with weapons that could crack planets. "Such a small world to cause such trouble," said his second-in-command, an officer whose skin changed colors based on his mood. Right now, it showed deep purple, indicating amusement. "All primitive species must learn this lesson," replied. "The Council has been patient. Now we will be instructive." The blockade began immediately. Council ships positioned themselves at every jump point leading out of Earth's solar system. Any human vessel attempting to leave was either destroyed or forced to return. Within the first day, 7 human cargo ships and 2 patrol vessels had been eliminated when they tried to run the blockade. But the real lesson was yet to come. "Begin Phase 2, ordered. The attack on New Geneva colony was swift and brutal. The small settlement on the planet's main continent had only basic defensive shields and a handful of security personnel. When 3 destroyers appeared in orbit, the colonists sent desperate messages back to Earth. "This is New Geneva calling Earth. 3 alien warships are demanding our immediate surrender. They say we have 10 minutes to evacuate before they destroy all structures. Governor Wells, a former Earth military officer, tried to coordinate the evacuation. All civilians to the emergency shelters. This is not a drill. The colony had nearly 3,000 people, mostly farmers, miners, and their families. Getting them all to safety in 10 minutes was impossible. The first energy beam struck the main power plant, cutting electricity to the entire settlement. The second beam destroyed the communication center, ending all contact with Earth. The third beam hit the water processing facility. The aliens weren't trying to kill the colonists. They were making the planet uninhabitable, forcing the humans to abandon everything they had built. "This is Commander to New Geneva Colony," came the broadcast. "Your resistance to Council authority has been noted. Evacuation ships will arrive in 2 hours to relocate your population to proper facilities. Do not resist." Similar attacks hit human colonies across local space. Station, an asteroid mining operation, was destroyed completely when the miners refused to surrender their equipment. The Tau agricultural colony lost all their crop storage facilities and their orbital docking platform. Earth's defense fleet tried to respond, but they were outnumbered and Captain Robert Hayes commanded a squadron of 6 destroyers sent to relieve the research station. They arrived to find 4 council ships already in orbit. "This is Captain Hayes of the Earth ship Defiant," he broadcast. "You are attacking civilian facilities. Withdraw immediately." The council response came in the form of plasma cannon that tore through his lead destroyer in seconds. The ship simply vanished in a ball of superheated gas. "Earth vessels," came the alien reply. "You are ordered to surrender immediately or join your companion." Hayes looked around his bridge. His crew was young, mostly recent academy graduates. They had trained for years to protect Earth and her colonies, but their training hadn't prepared them for weapons this advanced. "All ships," he ordered, "attack Formation Delta, target the lead enemy vessel." The human ships moved forward, firing everything they had. Their missiles and energy weapons struck the alien shields but caused no visible damage. The Council ships returned fire almost lazily, destroying 2 more human vessels before Hayes ordered the retreat. As his remaining ships limped back toward Earth, Hayes sent his report. "Command, this is Hayes. Enemy technology is far superior to ours. We cannot match them in direct combat. Recommend immediate evacuation of all outer colonies." The reports flooding back to Earth were all similar. Human forces were being destroyed everywhere they encountered Council ships. The aliens seemed to have unlimited numbers and weapons that made human technology look like toys. On Earth, the Emergency Defense Council meeting had been running for 3 days straight. Fleet Admiral Harrison studied the tactical displays showing human losses across local space. 17 colonies attacked so far, she reported grimly. 8 completely evacuated, 9 partially evacuated. We've lost 43 ships, including 12 destroyers and 3 cruisers. Enemy losses are 0. General slammed his hand on the table. This is exactly what they planned. They're not trying to destroy us completely. They're just making resistance too expensive to continue. "It's working," admitted Admiral Sarah's brother and commander of the home fleet. "At this rate, we'll lose our entire space-based infrastructure within 2 weeks. President Martinez looked exhausted. She had barely slept since the attacks began. "What are our options?" "We could surrender," said Defense Secretary Williams quietly. "Accept their terms and hope they treat us fairly." "Like they've treated the other species they conquered?" Sarah asked sharply. "We've seen those worlds. The original populations are essentially slaves, kept alive only to work for their new masters." Admiral Harrison stood up and walked to the large display showing human space. Red markers indicated destroyed or captured colonies. Yellow markers showed colonies under attack. Only a handful of green markers remained, mostly in Earth's immediate vicinity. "There is another option," she said slowly. Everyone in the room looked at her. "We've been fighting this war the way they expect us to fight it, ship to ship, colony to colony, trying to match their technology with inferior weapons." She turned to face the council. "But what if we stop playing by their rules?" "What do you mean?" President Martinez asked. "Every human ship they've destroyed, every colony they've attacked, they're following standard council military doctrine. It's predictable, systematic, designed to minimize their losses while maximizing ours." Harrison smiled grimly. "But humans don't fight the way other species fight." General leaned forward. "Explain." "They're fighting a war of conquest against what they think is another civilization like theirs. But we're not like them. We're not going to line up our ships and have a polite battle. We're going to do what humans have always done when facing superior enemies." "Which is?" asked President Martinez. Harrison's smile became broader and more dangerous. "We're going to cheat." In space above Earth, Admiral received the latest reports from his fleet commanders. Human resistance was crumbling exactly as predicted. Most colonies were evacuating without a fight, and the human fleet was avoiding direct confrontation. "Estimated time until complete human surrender?" he asked his tactical officer. "Between 3 and 5 more days, Admiral. Their military commanders appear to be realistic about their chances." Nodded approvingly. "Excellent. Signal the council that operation instruction will be completed ahead of schedule. The humans are learning faster than expected." He looked at Earth's blue surface on his main screen. Soon, that world would be properly managed under council authority. Another primitive species guided into civilization. It was almost disappointing how easy it had been. But then it always was. 3 weeks after the council blockade began, the first strange reports started reaching Admiral's command center. "Sir," his communications officer said, her voice uncertain, "we've lost contact with Patrol Group 7 Alpha." Looked up from his tactical display. "Define lost contact." "They were conducting a routine patrol of the asteroid belt in the 128 system. Their last transmission was a standard all-clear report. Since then, nothing." "Equipment failure?" "Unknown, sir. When our relief patrol arrived at their last known position, they found debris from all 3 ships scattered across several thousand kilometers." Frowned. The debris pattern suggested the ships had been destroyed, but there were no human forces in that area. According to all intelligence reports, the humans had pulled back to defend Earth itself. "Any indication of what destroyed them?" "No energy weapon signatures, no evidence of missile impacts. The wreckage looks like something tore the ships apart from the inside." Over the next few days, similar reports arrived from across Council space. Patrol ships disappeared without warning. Supply convoys found destroyed with their cargo scattered into space. Most disturbing of all, the attacks seemed to leave no trace of what had caused them. Commander, monitoring the reports from his flagship, called a meeting with his senior officers. "We have a problem," he announced. "In the past week, we have lost 14 ships to unknown attackers. The humans cannot possibly have the resources for such operations." His tactical officer, a young named, raised a concern. "Sir, could there be another species involved? Perhaps the humans have found allies." "Impossible," replied. "Our intelligence network would have detected any non-human ships in this sector. No, this is definitely human work. But how are they doing it?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Maria Santos had been presumed dead when her ship, the Gorilla, was reported destroyed during the first week of fighting. In reality, she and her crew had escaped in and been picked up by a mining vessel that was also listed as destroyed. Santos had spent 3 weeks studying wreckage from Council ships, working with her chief engineer to understand alien technology. What they discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. "Their shields are incredibly powerful," she explained to Admiral Harrison during a secret meeting on the abandoned research station where her team was hiding. "But they're designed to stop energy weapons and guided missiles. They don't handle kinetic impacts well, especially from unexpected angles." "What do you mean?" Harrison asked. Santos pulled up a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Council destroyer. "Their ships are built for ship-to-ship combat. Big guns, heavy shields, lots of armor in front. But look at this." She highlighted several areas on the display. "These sections have minimal protection because they're not supposed to be exposed to enemy fire." "The engineering sections," Harrison realized. "Exactly. Their ships are designed like medieval castles, incredibly strong from the front, but vulnerable if you can get around their defenses." Santos's plan was simple and insane. Instead of fighting the Council ships directly, human forces would use modified mining vessels and cargo haulers to approach from unexpected directions. They would hide in asteroid fields, emerge from gas giant atmospheres, or drift silently among space debris until Council ships came within range. The first successful test of this strategy occurred in the Vega system. Council Captain was commanding a routine patrol when his sensors detected what appeared to be a derelict freighter drifting near the system's outer asteroid belt. Standard procedure required investigating any unknown vessels, so he ordered his ship to approach. "Scans show no life signs," his sensor operator reported. "The vessel appears to have suffered major system failures, hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. "Any cargo?" "Unknown, sir. The ship's computers are offline." As Destroyer moved closer to investigate, he had no way of knowing that the derelict freighter was actually packed with explosives and guided by a remote pilot hiding in a nearby asteroid. The explosion tore through his ship's unshielded engineering section, destroying the main reactor and killing half his crew instantly. Before he could send a distress signal, a second human ship emerged from the asteroid field, using the chaos to target his ship's communications array with precise fire. Captain Santos, commanding the attack from her hidden position, watched the Council destroyer spin helplessly in space, its engines dead and weapons offline. "This is for New Geneva," she whispered, then gave the order for the final attack. The destruction of ship was just the beginning. Within days, similar attacks occurred throughout Council-controlled space. Human forces seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating effect, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. What made these attacks even more effective was human unpredictability. Council military doctrine was based on thousands of years of experience fighting other civilized species who followed recognized rules of warfare. They expected attacks to come from ships that looked like warships, using standard military tactics. Humans used garbage scows fitted with stealth technology scavenged from destroyed Council vessels. They attacked from directions that made no strategic sense. They used weapons that weren't supposed to exist, cobbled together from mining equipment and salvaged alien components. Most confusing of all, they seemed to have no regard for acceptable losses. Human crews would ram their ships into Council vessels if that was the most effective way to destroy them. They would sacrifice entire squadrons to eliminate a single high-value target. Admiral found himself facing a type of warfare he had never encountered in 3 centuries of military service. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported during another emergency briefing, "we've confirmed 17 more attacks in the past 4 days. The humans are using tactics that don't make sense." "Explain." "They're attacking targets with no apparent strategic value. Supply depots, communication relays, isolated patrol ships. Meanwhile, they're completely ignoring targets that should be high priorities, like our main fleet concentrations. Perhaps they're trying to disrupt our logistics, suggested the tactical officer. No, sir. The attacks seem almost random. It's as if they're attacking anything they can find without any overall strategy. What the council officers didn't understand was that the apparent randomness was itself a strategy. By attacking unpredictably, human forces forced the council to spread their fleet across dozens of systems, trying to protect everything at once. Moreover, each attack provided humans with more intelligence about council technology and tactics. Every destroyed council ship was carefully studied by human engineers who were learning to adapt alien technology for their own use. The psychological effect on council forces was even more significant. Sailors who had joined the fleet expecting routine patrol duties found themselves constantly looking over their shoulders, never knowing when or where the next attack might come. Commander reviewed the latest casualty reports with growing frustration. In 3 weeks, his fleet had lost over 30 ships to an enemy that shouldn't have the resources to operate a single squadron. "How many human ships have we actually identified?" he asked. "Confirmed visual contact with 17 vessels, sir. But the attack patterns suggest at least 40 ships are operating against us." "Impossible. Our intelligence indicates the humans have fewer than 20 combat-capable vessels remaining." His aide hesitated before responding. "Sir, most of the ships we've identified aren't traditional warships. They appear to be converted civilian vessels, mining ships, cargo haulers, even what looks like a passenger liner." Stared at the tactical display showing council losses across the sector. Red markers indicated destroyed ships, yellow markers showed damaged vessels, and blue markers represented ships that had simply vanished without a trace. For the first time since the operation began, he felt a cold fear in his stomach. The humans weren't fighting like any civilized species should. They were fighting like savages, like barbarians who didn't understand the rules of proper warfare. And somehow, their savage tactics were working. "Signal the council," he ordered reluctantly. "Request immediate reinforcements. I'm beginning to think we may have underestimated these humans." Admiral's reinforcements arrived in Earth's solar system with the confidence typical of council forces. 83 additional warships, including 3 massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire fleets. The council had decided to end the human problem permanently. "This should have been finished weeks ago," Admiral and declared from his flagship, the inevitable conquest. He was a veteran of dozens of council integration campaigns and had never seen a primitive species hold out this long. "Your reports made these humans sound like a serious threat." Bristled at the criticism but kept his voice level. "Admiral, I assure you that these humans are unlike any species we've previously encountered. Their tactics are irrelevant," and interrupted. "We now have sufficient force to crush them completely, begin the final assault." What neither admiral knew was that human intelligence had been tracking council communications since the second week of the conflict. Every ship movement, every tactical discussion, every supply convoy had been monitored by listening posts hidden throughout the system. In the secret command bunker built into Earth's moon, Admiral Harrison watched the Council fleet deploy for what they clearly intended to be their final attack. 130 ships, she said to her staff. "They're really trying to make a statement." General stood beside her, studying the tactical displays. "Maybe we should have revealed our strength earlier. This is a lot of firepower heading our way." Harrison smiled. "Jim, if we'd shown them what we really had from the beginning, they would have brought twice this many ships. Better to let them think they understand what they're facing." She turned to address the room full of officers. "Ladies, it's time to stop pretending we're a primitive species barely holding on. Signal all units. Execute Operation Homecoming." Across the solar system, human forces that had been hidden for months began to move. The Council had been fighting what they thought was Earth's entire military, a collection of outdated ships and desperate civilian volunteers. They had no idea that Earth's real fleet had been waiting, watching, and preparing. The Sol Defense Fleet emerged from hiding like a sleeping giant awakening. Massive carriers that had been concealed in the asteroid belt launched swarms of fighters. Battleships that had been hiding in the shadow of Jupiter's moons powered up weapon systems that made Council technology look obsolete. Cruiser squadrons that had been masquerading as space debris suddenly activated their engines and moved to attack positions. Council sensors, designed to track conventional military vessels, completely missed the emergence of Earth's true fleet until it was too late. Admiral N was reviewing his attack plans when his sensor officer made a report that changed everything. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple new contacts throughout the system." "Define multiple." "Sir, I count at least 200 human vessels, and the number is still climbing." And stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "That's impossible. Our intelligence clearly stated." "Sir," another officer interrupted, "energy signatures are off the charts. These aren't the same ships we've been fighting. These are actual warships, big ones." The battle had been humanity's test run. Now came the real thing. Admiral Harrison commanded the operation from her flagship, the Defiant Dawn. Around her, the largest space battle in human history was about to begin. "All units, this is Harrison. Today we show the galaxy what humans can do when we stop playing games. Remember, they came to our home. They attacked our people. They thought we were weak." Her voice carried across every human ship in the system. "Let's prove them wrong." The first phase of the battle was pure chaos, exactly what humans excelled at. While Council forces tried to form proper battle lines according to their military doctrine, human forces attacked from every direction at once. Captain led a squadron of destroyers in a high-speed run against the Council's left flank. Her ships moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually coordinated by advanced battle computers that could process thousands of variables simultaneously. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "All weapons, maximum rate of fire." The human destroyers unleashed a barrage of rounds that tore through Council shields like paper. But instead of staying to finish the job, they immediately changed course and vanished into a nearby debris field, leaving the enemy confused and damaged. Meanwhile, Commander Sarah was demonstrating what human fighters could do when they weren't limited by concerns about pilot safety. Her squadron of unmanned combat drones swarmed a Council dreadnought, each one targeting a specific weak point, identified by human intelligence. "Drones Alpha through Gamma, target the sensor arrays," she commanded from her control ship. "Delta through Zeta, go for the weapon. This is a precision strike, people. Make every shot count." The drones moved with inhuman precision, coordinating their attacks in ways that organic pilots never could. Within minutes, the massive Council ship was blind and defenseless. But the most devastating demonstration of human capability came from Admiral Harrison herself. While Council forces struggled to understand the chaos around them, she was orchestrating 5 separate fleet actions simultaneously, while managing supply lines that fed ammunition and replacement parts to human ships in real time. "Sir," her tactical officer reported, "the enemy is trying to retreat to defensive positions around their command vessels." "Understood. Signal the Redemption and her escorts. Execute flanking maneuver Charlie 7. Tell Captain Martinez to take his heavy cruisers through the asteroid field and hit them from behind." "Sir, that maneuver requires navigating through an active debris field while coordinating with 4 other ship groups. The timing has to be perfect or—" "Captain Martinez knows what he's doing," Harrison interrupted. "Trust the plan." What Admiral witnessed over the next 6 hours challenged everything he thought he knew about space warfare. The humans weren't just fighting. They were conducting a symphony of destruction that hit his forces from every possible angle while maintaining perfect coordination. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Their weapons seemed to have impossible range and accuracy. Their pilots flew in formations that should have resulted in constant collisions, but somehow never did. Worst of all, they seemed to anticipate every council move before it happened. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his staff. "How are they coordinating this level of complexity?" His intelligence officer, studying the tactical data streaming across his displays, could only shake his head. "Sir, they're managing battle groups across 6 different sectors while maintaining real-time coordination of over 300 vessels. The computational requirements alone should be impossible with their level of technology." What the council officers didn't understand was that humans had spent the last 50 years developing artificial intelligence specifically designed for warfare. Every human ship was linked to a network of battle computers that could process tactical information faster than any organic mind could comprehend. The turning point came when Captain Robert, commanding the heavy cruiser New Tokyo, managed to destroy Admiral and's flagship with a tactic that would have been considered insane by council standards. Instead of engaging the massive dreadnought directly, used his ship's superior maneuverability to get behind it, then fired his entire ammunition supply in a sustained barrage while ramming speed toward the enemy vessel. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "we've expended all missiles and 60% of our ammunition. Recommend we withdraw and rearm." "Negative," replied calmly. "Continue firing until we're empty, then prepare for ramming speed." "Sir, the blast will destroy us too." Looked around his bridge at the young officers, who had volunteered to serve on what everyone knew was a suicide mission. "That's the plan, Lieutenant. This is for every human who died because these bastards thought we were weak." The New Tokyo's final attack obliterated both ships, but the destruction of the Council's command vessel sent shock waves through the entire enemy fleet. When the battle ended 12 hours later, the Council forces were in full retreat. They had lost over half their ships, including all 3 dreadnoughts and most of their command structure. Human losses were significant but manageable, exactly what Harrison had planned for. As Admiral's surviving ships limped out of the solar system, he found himself faced with a reality he couldn't accept. "How did this happen?" he asked his remaining staff. "They were primitives. They couldn't have had this level of military capability." His tactical officer, studying the battle recordings, provided the answer that would haunt Council leadership for years to come. "Sir, analysis of the human fleet indicates that everything we fought during the first months of this conflict, all those converted civilian ships, all those desperate tactics, that wasn't their military. That was their training fleet." Stared at him in horror. "What do you mean?" "The ships we just encountered represent Earth's actual defense fleet. They've been hiding their true capabilities this entire time, using their inferior vessels to make us think we understood their strength." The officer's voice shook as he delivered his final assessment. "Sir, we've been fighting their equivalent of a military academy while their real forces watched and learned everything about our tactics." In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Harrison received a communication from the retreating Council forces. Admiral himself appeared on her screen, his expression a mixture of respect and fear. "Admiral Harrison, I congratulate you on a remarkable victory. Perhaps we can discuss terms for a ceasefire." Harrison's response became legendary throughout human space. "Admiral, you came to our home, attacked our people, and threatened our freedom. The only terms I'm interested in discussing are your surrender." When the transmission ended, she turned to her staff with a grim smile. "Signal Earth Command. Tell them the training exercise is over. Time to show these aliens what humans can really do when we're serious." 6 months after the Battle of Saul, The Galactic Council chambers hosted a session unlike any in their 3,000-year history. The Great Hall, designed to intimidate visiting species with its massive scale and ancient architecture, now felt different. Smaller somehow, despite being exactly the same size it had always been. Ambassador Sarah walked through the corridors where countless other species had once come to beg for mercy or negotiate their surrender. Today, she was here as an equal, perhaps more than equal. The council members seated around the circular table looked like a group of students waiting for a test they hadn't studied for. The proud empire, which had dominated council politics for over a millennium, was now represented by a single nervous diplomat. The collective's usual confident purple skin coloration had shifted to pale yellow, indicating anxiety. "Members of the council," Sarah began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustic systems. "Humanity appreciates your invitation to discuss the future of galactic governance." She looked around the table at faces that ranged from fearful to resentful to carefully neutral. 6 months ago, these same beings had viewed humans as a minor nuisance to be quickly crushed. Now they hung on her every word. "As you know," she continued, "recent events have led to some changes in the local political situation." That was putting it mildly. After the destruction of the Council's main fleet at Sol, humanity had launched what they politely called peacekeeping operations throughout Council space. 23 former Council worlds had declared independence with human military support. The home system was now under human occupation after their government refused to accept the new reality. 3 entire species had petitioned to join a new alliance under human protection. Council Chairman K, an ancient reptilian being who had led the Council for over 2 centuries, spoke with carefully controlled anger. "Ambassador, humanities. Aggressive expansion has destabilized sectors that have been peaceful for. The Council demands an immediate halt to these operations." Sarah smiled politely. "Chairman K, I think there may be some confusion. These aren't aggressive operations. They're humanitarian missions to assist species that have requested our help in achieving their independence." "Independence," the word came from the former ambassador who had delivered the original ultimatum to Earth. He looked much less confident than he had 6 months ago. These species were happy under Council protection. "Were they?" Sarah asked. "Because our interviews with their populations suggest otherwise. Did you know that the people of Prime have been requesting permission to form their own government for over 50 years? Or that the species has been forced to provide 70% of their agricultural output to the Council while their own people suffered malnutrition?" She gestured to a holographic display that appeared above the table. It showed detailed statistics from former Council worlds, population data, resource extraction quotas, and freedom indices that painted a picture very different from the Council's official reports. It seems that many species had a different understanding of Council protection than the Council itself did. Admiral Harrison, attending as military advisor, added her own perspective. "The Council's records show that in the past century, 47 species requested permission to leave Council authority. All 47 requests were, that doesn't sound like protection to me. That sounds like imprisonment." The Council members shifted uncomfortably. These were facts they preferred not to discuss, even among themselves. Chairman K attempted to regain control of the meeting. "Regardless of past policies, humanity's actions represent a clear threat to galactic stability. The Council cannot allow one species to dictate terms to the rest of the galaxy." Sarah's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes grew harder. "Chairman, respectfully, the Council is in no position to allow or disallow anything. Your military forces have been reduced to local defense fleets. Your economic system has collapsed as former tributary worlds have stopped their mandatory resource transfers. And most importantly, you no longer have the monopoly on advanced technology that allowed you to dominate other species for so long." She was right, and everyone in the room knew it. Human forces had captured dozens of council ships intact, along with manufacturing facilities and research stations. Within months, human engineers had not only learned to replicate council technology but had begun improving upon it. "So what does humanity want?" asked the representative, her skin now showing resigned orange stripes. "We want what we've always wanted," Sarah replied. "To be left alone to develop as we choose, to trade freely with other species, to explore the galaxy without interference." She paused, "and to ensure that no species ever again faces the choice between submission and destruction." Admiral Harrison activated another display showing the current military situation throughout the galaxy. Human fleets were positioned at key strategic points, but notably, they weren't occupying worlds or establishing colonies in council space. "The new galactic structure we're proposing is simple," Harrison explained. "Free association of sovereign species with mutual defense agreements and free trade protocols. No mandatory tributes, no forced relocations, no integration ultimatums." "And if the council refuses to accept this structure?" asked. Sarah and Harrison exchanged a glance. It was Admiral Harrison who answered. "Then you'll be free to continue governing whatever territories remain under your control. We're not interested in forcing anyone to join our alliance." Her tone became slightly cooler. "But we are committed to protecting any species that requests our assistance against aggression." The implication was clear. The Council could continue to exist, but only if they stopped their expansionist policies. Any attempt to force unwilling species back under Council control would be met with human military intervention. Over the next several hours, they worked out the details of what would become known as the Terran Accords. The galaxy would be divided into zones of influence, with clear protocols for resolving disputes and protecting smaller species from being bullied by larger ones. The Council would retain control of its core systems, but would have to recognize the independence of any world that voted to leave. Humanity would take responsibility for maintaining peace in the outer systems, where most of the former Council colonies were located. As the formal negotiations continued, Admiral Harrison found herself in a private conversation with Admiral, who had been attending as a Council military advisor. The officer looked older than he had 6 months ago, worn down by the reality of his fleet's total defeat. "I have to ask," he said quietly, "was it always a trap? Did you plan from the beginning to let us think we were winning while your real forces prepared?" Harrison considered her answer carefully. "Admiral, when your people first contacted us, Earth's government had a choice. We could have revealed our full military capability immediately and probably deterred your attack, but that would have started an arms race that might have lasted for decades. Instead, we let you show us everything you were capable of while revealing as little as possible about ourselves. We learned your tactics, studied your technology, and identified your weaknesses. When the real fighting started, we had every possible advantage." Nodded slowly, a very human approach to warfare. "How so?" "You treated the entire conflict as a learning experience. Other species would have either surrendered immediately or fought desperately from the beginning. Only humans would use their own defeats as intelligence-gathering operations." Harrison smiled. "Admiral, you attacked us during what my species considers our early development phase. We've been spacefaring for less than a century. Most of our military innovations were developed during the conflict itself." The stared at her. "You mean this wasn't even your full capability?" "Admiral, everything you've seen, our fleets, our tactics, our technology, all of it was developed by a species that's still figuring out how to live among the stars." Harrison's expression became thoughtful. "Check back with us in 1,000 years and ask us again what we're capable of." The formal signing ceremony took place a week later. Representatives from 47 species gathered to witness the establishment of the new galactic order. Most of them were species that had gained their freedom with human assistance, but several former council members attended as well. Ambassador Sarah signed the accords on behalf of Earth, officially establishing humanity as a galactic power. As she added her signature to the document that would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come, she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. 9 months ago, Earth had been seen as a primitive world barely worthy of notice. Now, human fleets patrolled shipping lanes throughout the galaxy, human diplomats mediated disputes between species, and human technology was being shared with dozens of worlds seeking to build their own defense capabilities. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence for all those who had died during the conflict. Human, and dozens of other species, who had paid the price for the Council's arrogance and humanity's determination to remain free. As the delegates began to leave, Chairman K approached Sarah with what might have been respect in his ancient eyes. Ambassador, I must admit that the Council misjudged humanity's potential. Perhaps this new arrangement will prove beneficial for all species. Sarah smiled diplomatically. Chairman, humanity has never sought to replace the Council's authority. We simply want to ensure that it's more consultative in the future. Later that evening, in the quarters that had been assigned to the human delegation, Admiral Harrison and Ambassador reviewed the day's events. Think it'll work? Harrison asked. This new system we've created. It'll work as long as we're strong enough to enforce it, Sarah replied. The Council learned that they can't dominate others through superior force, but there will always be species that try to take advantage of the weak. Harrison nodded. That's why we're building the protection fleet. Humans will guarantee the independence of any species that wants it. Sarah looked out the window at the stars, where human ships now stood guard over a galaxy that was slowly learning to live without the Council's oppressive peace. You know, she said thoughtfully, 6 months ago we were just trying to survive. Now we're responsible for maintaining peace across dozens of star systems. That's quite a change. Harrison joined her at the window. It is, but somebody needs to make sure the bullies don't win. Might as well be us. As Earth's sun set on the first day of humanity's role as galactic peacekeepers, the message was clear throughout Council space. The age of forced submission was over. Any species that wanted to determine its own destiny would have human protection. And any species that tried to recreate the Council's old system of domination would learn exactly why that was no longer possible. The galaxy had new management, and this time the management believed in freedom.